Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! As the day drew to a close, the monotonous purr of the washer provided Pablo with a soothing backdrop to his long overdue task. He eyed the laundry basket with a sense of resignation, knowing full well the extent of his procrastination. Reaching into its depths, he extracted a handful of dark garments, inadvertently brushing against something distinctly silky. He stopped in his tracks, his fingers closing around an unexpected treasure. It was an exquisite emerald-hued fabric, a flowing chiffon maxi skirt, the very garment his sister Amanda had been raving about incessantly for days. Pablo's hesitance betrayed his apprehension about its fragility. Could this delicate material survive the rigors of a standard wash? An hour later, he returned to transfer the load to the dryer, humming absently as he reached in to grab the damp clothes. His hand froze as it touched something that felt off. Pablo's stomach dropped as he pulled out the once stunning emerald skirt. The delicate chiffon had snagged and torn in several places, leaving ragged holes throughout the flowing fabric. Worse, the color had bled onto some of his own clothes, staining them a sickly greenish hue. "No, no, no," he groaned, frantically trying to smooth out the ruined garment. Amanda was going to kill him. She'd saved up for weeks to buy this skirt for a special event. How could he have been so careless? Pablo paced the laundry room, running his hands through his blonde hair as panic set in. He had to fix this before Amanda got home from her weekend trip. But how? The skirt was clearly beyond repair. A desperate plan began to form. If he could find an identical replacement, Amanda might never know what happened. Pablo grabbed his keys and wallet, heading for the boutique where she'd purchased the skirt originally. The tinkling of bells announced his arrival as Pablo pushed open the door to Bella's boutique. Racks of colorful dresses and skirts lined the walls, and the air smelled faintly of vanilla. A saleswoman with a bright smile approached. "Welcome to Bella's! Can I help you find anything?" Pablo felt his face flush. Yes. I'm looking for a specific skirt. Emerald green chiffon, maxi length. I saw someone wearing it recently." The saleswoman's eyes lit up. "Oh, I know exactly the one you mean. We just got a new shipment in. Follow me." She led Pablo to a rack near the back of the store, pulling out a skirt that looked identical to Amanda's ruined one. "Here we are. It's one of our most popular styles. The fabric drapes so beautifully." Pablo nodded, relief washing over him. "Perfect. I'll take it." "Wonderful. Now we'll just need to make sure we get you the right size. The fitting rooms are right over there." Pablo blinked. "Oh no, that's not necessary. It's not for—" The saleswoman cut him off with a gentle laugh. "Nonsense. We need to make sure the length is right. These can be tricky to hem if they're too long. Go on, try it on. I insist." Before he could protest further, Pablo found himself ushered into a small fitting room, the emerald skirt draped over his arm. He stared at his reflection in the full-length mirror, cheeks burning with embarrassment. This was ridiculous. He should just buy the skirt and leave. But what if it really was the wrong length? Amanda would definitely notice if it didn't fit the same as her original. With a resigned sigh, Pablo kicked off his shoes and shimmied out of his jeans. He held up the skirt, marveling at how light and airy the fabric felt. Carefully, he stepped into it, pulling it up over his hips. The elastic waistband settled comfortably just above his navel. Pablo smoothed down the flowing material, surprised by how soft it felt against his skin. He looked up, catching sight of himself in the mirror. The emerald color complemented his fair skin and blonde hair in a way he'd never expected. The skirt's long, sweeping lines made his legs look impossibly long. Pablo found himself turning slowly, watching how the delicate fabric swirled around his ankles. A knock at the door startled him. "How's it fitting?" the saleswoman called. "Do you need a different size?" Pablo cleared his throat. "No, I think this one is good. The length seems right." "Excellent. Why don't you come out and let me take a look? Sometimes it helps to have a second opinion." Panic fluttered in Pablo's chest. "That's really not necessary. I'm sure it's fine." "Oh, come now. Don't be shy. I've seen it all in this job. Believe me." Before he could think of another excuse, the saleswoman was gently opening the door. Pablo froze, feeling exposed and vulnerable as her eyes widened slightly. "Oh my," she breathed. "That looks absolutely stunning on you." Pablo felt his face burning. It's not. The saleswoman's expression softened. "Honey, there's no need to be embarrassed. You look beautiful. The way that skirt flows. It's like it was made for you." Pablo's protests died on his lips as he caught sight of himself in the three-way mirror outside the fitting room. The saleswoman was right. Something about the way the skirt draped over his hips and swirled around his legs looked right. Natural, even. Thank you," he managed, surprising himself with the sincerity in his voice. The saleswoman beamed. "You're very welcome. Now, would you like to look at some tops to go with it? We have some lovely blouses that would complement that color beautifully." Pablo hesitated, torn between fleeing the store and an unexpected urge to see how a complete outfit might look. "Maybe just one," he heard himself say. An hour later, Pablo left the boutique with far more than just the replacement skirt. The saleswoman, whose name he learned was Diane, had been incredibly kind and patient, helping him select a few tops and even a pair of low heels that matched the skirt perfectly. As he drove home, Pablo's mind raced. What had come over him? He'd only meant to replace Amanda's skirt, and now he had a bag full of women's clothes. Clothes that, if he was honest with himself, he was itching to try on again. Back at the apartment, Pablo carefully hung up his new purchases in the back of his closet. He'd return them tomorrow, he decided. This was just a momentary lapse in judgment brought on by stress and guilt over ruining Amanda's skirt. But as he started to close the closet door, his hand lingered on the soft fabric of the emerald skirt. Before he could talk himself out of it, Pablo was slipping it on once more. He paired it with one of the flowing blouses Diane had recommended, a creamy white that complemented the rich green perfectly. Pablo stood in front of his full-length mirror, breath catching in his throat. The outfit transformed him in a way he'd never imagined possible. His normally angular features seemed softer somehow, his blonde hair framing his face in a more feminine way. For the first time in his life, Pablo felt pretty. A key turning in the lock jolted him back to reality. Amanda was home early! Pablo scrambled to change, heart pounding as he shoved the skirt and blouse back into the closet. "Pablo, you home?" Amanda called out.
"Yeah, just a sec,"
he replied, voice cracking slightly. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing pulse before stepping out to greet his sister. Amanda was unpacking groceries in the kitchen, her back to him as he entered.
"Hey, how was your weekend?"
Pablo asked, striving for a casual tone. She turned, smiling. Great! The conference was really interesting. Oh, by the way, I meant to tell you, I donated a bunch of my old clothes last week, including that green Maxi skirt. I know you usually do the laundry, so I didn't want you to freak out if you couldn't find it. Pablo blinked, processing this information. Oh, okay. Good to know. Amanda raised an eyebrow. You okay? You look a little flushed.
Yeah, just haven't been feeling great today. Might be coming down with something.
Pablo lied, avoiding her gaze.
Ah, that sucks. Well, get some rest. I'll make dinner tonight.
As Amanda turned back to the groceries, Pablo retreated to his room, mind reeling. The skirt he'd ruined. Amanda had already gotten rid of it, which meant the new one he'd bought, along with all those other clothes. He opened his closet, staring at the garments hidden in the back. A mix of guilt and excitement churned in his stomach. He should return them. It was the right thing to do. But as his fingers brushed against the soft fabric of the skirt, Pablo knew he wouldn't. Something had awakened in him today. Something he couldn't ignore. Over the next few weeks, Pablo found himself inventing reasons to be alone in the apartment. Each time, he would carefully remove the emerald skirt and blouse from their hiding place, reveling in the feeling of the soft fabrics against his skin. He began experimenting with makeup, watching countless tutorials online and practicing in secret. The transformation was subtle at first, a touch of mascara, a hint of blush. But as his skills improved, Pablo found himself creating more dramatic looks. One evening, as he stood before the mirror in full makeup, the flowing skirt swirling around his ankles, Pablo had an epiphany. The person staring back at him wasn't Pablo anymore. This was someone new, someone who had always been there, waiting to emerge.
Alani,
he whispered, the name coming to him suddenly. It felt right, like slipping on a perfectly fitted glove. From that moment on, Pablo began living a double life. To the outside world, he remained the same easygoing guy he'd always been. But in private, Alani flourished, building a wardrobe of elegant maxi skirts and flowing tops. She scoured thrift stores and online marketplaces for deals, slowly amassing a collection that rivaled Amanda's. Each new piece brought a thrill of excitement, another opportunity to express this newfound part of herself. Alani began to crave more time to explore this side of her identity. She started volunteering for night shifts at work, knowing the apartment would be empty when she returned home. Those late nights became a sanctuary, a time when she could fully embrace her true self. One particularly quiet evening, Alani decided to be bold. She ordered takeout, planning to answer the door fully dressed as herself for the first time. As she waited for the delivery, she paced nervously, second-guessing her decision. The doorbell rang, startling her. Alani took a deep breath, smoothing down her favorite emerald skirt. She opened the door, heart pounding. The delivery person, a young woman with vibrant blue hair, smiled brightly. "Evening. Got an order for Pablo?" Alani nodded, finding her voice. "Yes, that's me. That's for me." The woman's smile never wavered. "Cool skirt," she said, handing over the bag of food. "The color really brings out your eyes." Warmth bloomed in Alani's chest. "Thank you," she murmured, genuinely touched by the casual compliment. As she closed the door, Alani felt a surge of confidence. That small interaction, free from judgment or confusion, felt like a victory. She twirled in place, letting the skirt billow around her legs, laughing with pure joy. The next day, Pablo found himself distracted at work, mind wandering to the clothes waiting for him at home. He was so lost in thought that he nearly collided with his coworker, Maria, in the break room. "Whoa there, daydreamer," Maria laughed, steadying him. "Where's your head at today?" Pablo felt his cheeks flush. "Sorry, just thinking about some changes I want to make in my life." Maria's eyes lit up with interest. "Oh yeah? Like what?" For a moment, Pablo considered confiding in her. Maria had always been kind and open-minded, but fear held him back.
"Just personal stuff,"
he mumbled. Maria nodded, not pressing further. "Well, whatever it is, I hope it makes you happy. You deserve it." Her words stayed with Pablo throughout the day, fueling his determination. That evening, Alani made a decision. She would start small, but she would start living her truth beyond the walls of her apartment. The next weekend, Alani ventured out to a nearby park, dressed in a flowing lavender maxi skirt and a delicate white blouse. She'd spent hours on her makeup, aiming for a natural look that enhanced her features without being too dramatic. As she strolled along the path, Alani felt a mix of terror and exhilaration. Every passing glance from a stranger sent her heart racing. But as the minutes ticked by without incident, she began to relax. Children laughed on the playground, couples picnicked on the grass, and joggers passed her with friendly nods. Alani realized that to most people, she was just another woman enjoying a beautiful day in the park. She found a bench overlooking a small pond and sat down, spreading her skirt around her. The sun warmed her face as she closed her eyes, savoring the moment. "Excuse me," a voice interrupted her reverie. Alani's eyes snapped open to see an elderly woman standing before her. "I hope you don't mind me saying, but that skirt is absolutely lovely. The color suits you perfectly." Alani felt a lump form in her throat. "Thank you," she managed, her voice soft but steady. "That's very kind of you to say." The woman smiled warmly. "My granddaughter loves those long, flowy skirts, says they make her feel like a princess. I can see why." As the woman continued on her way, Alani felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. Such a simple interaction, yet it meant the world to her. She was being seen, truly seen, as herself for the first time. That outing marked a turning point for Alani. She began venturing out more often, gaining confidence with each successful trip. She discovered a quaint cafe where she could sit for hours, sipping lattes and people-watching. The baristas soon knew her by name, greeting her with warm smiles each time she entered. At home, Pablo still existed, going through the motions of his old life. But those moments felt increasingly hollow, like trying to squeeze into clothes he'd long outgrown. One evening, as Pablo half-heartedly watched TV with Amanda, his sister turned to him with a concerned expression.
"Hey, is everything okay? You've seemed, I don't know, distant lately."
Pablo felt a pang of guilt. He hated keeping secrets from Amanda, but the thought of revealing his true self terrified him.
"I'm fine,"
he lied.
"Just been tired from work."
Amanda didn't look convinced. "You know you can talk to me about anything, right? I'm always here for you." Pablo nodded, forcing a smile. "I know. Thanks, sis." As weeks turned into months, Alani's wardrobe continued to grow. She experimented with different styles and colors, but always returned to her beloved maxi skirts. There was something about the way they moved, the elegant sweep of fabric that made her feel truly herself. She began to dream of a life where she could be Alani all the time. The thought of going back to living as Pablo full-time felt suffocating, but the idea of coming out to her family and friends paralyzed her with fear. One rainy Saturday, Alani decided to treat herself to a shopping trip. She'd been eyeing a gorgeous sapphire blue maxi skirt in a boutique window for weeks. As she entered the store, a familiar voice called out, "Welcome to—" "Oh!" It was Diane, the saleswoman who had helped her that very first day. Recognition flickered in her eyes. "I remember you, the emerald skirt, right?" Alani felt her heart skip a beat. "Yes, that's right," she said softly. Diane's face broke into a warm smile. "I knew that skirt was perfect for you. And look at you now. You're absolutely glowing." Tears welled up in Alani's eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "You have no idea how much that day meant to me." Diane reached out, squeezing Alani's hand gently. "Honey, I've been in this business a long time. I've seen plenty of people find themselves in these fitting rooms. It's always an honor to be a part of that journey." For the next hour, Diane helped Alani try on various outfits, offering encouragement and advice. As Alani twirled in the sapphire skirt she'd come for, Diane clapped her hands in delight. "Oh, that's stunning! You simply must get it. In fact," Diane hesitated, then continued, "we're actually looking for part-time help here at the boutique. Would you be interested? You clearly have an eye for fashion, and I think you'd be wonderful with customers who might be in a similar situation to where you were." Alani froze, overwhelmed by the offer. A job where she could be herself, help others, and be surrounded by beautiful clothes all day? It sounded like a dream. I don't know what to say," Alani stammered. Diane smiled kindly. "You don't have to decide right now. Think about it, okay? The offer stands whenever you're ready." As Alani left the boutique, clutching her new skirt, her mind raced with possibilities. The idea of working as her true self was both thrilling and terrifying. But for the first time, she could see a future where Alani wasn't just a secret identity, but her whole life. That night, as Pablo got ready for bed, he found himself staring at his reflection in the bathroom mirror. The face looking back at him felt like a mask, one that no longer fit comfortably. He thought about Amanda, about his parents and friends. Would they understand? Could they accept Alani the way Diane had? Pablo took a deep breath, making a decision. It was time to stop hiding. Whatever the consequences, he couldn't keep living this double life. Alani deserved to exist in the light, not just in stolen moments and secret outings. Tomorrow, he decided, he would start the process of coming out to his loved ones. It wouldn't be easy, but with each person he told, Alani would become more real. As he crawled into bed, Pablo allowed himself to imagine a future where he could wake up every morning and slip on a flowing skirt, where he could go to work at the boutique and help others find their own path to self-discovery. For the first time in months, he fell asleep with a sense of hope and excitement for what the future might hold. Tomorrow would be the first day of Alani's new life, a life lived authentically, in the open, surrounded by the swish of maxi skirts and the support of those who truly saw her for who she was meant to be.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!